Part 2. Ains looked over to a certain part of the village, sighing as he did. There, he saw several villagers lined up in a row. There were men, women, and children of all ages. He could see a motherly-looking 40-year-old woman as well as teenagers. The one thing they had in common was the stern look on their faces, which might even be mistaken for hostility. It was a clear sign that nobody here was in the mood to play around. A goblin with a bow addressed the villagers. Even Ains's heightened sense of hearing could not make out his words over the great distance. After a while, the line of villagers slowly raised their bows. They were simple, shabby short bows which looked warped and were probably self-made. After drawing their bows all the way back, they took aim at the strawmen some distance away. The goblin must have given an order, because the villagers loosed as one. The bows looked crude, but the arrows they launched flew in beautiful trajectories. All of them struck the strawmen, without a single miss. Not bad. Ains could not help but praise them. Are they really that good? Narbril, standing behind Ains, could not help but express her doubt. In all likelihood, Narbril could not understand why their skills were praiseworthy. After all, they were like children at play compared to the archers of the Great Tomb of Nazarick. As he realized what Narbril was thinking, a bitter smile bloomed on Ains's illusionary face under his helmet. You're right, Narbril. Their technique is hardly something to get excited over. However, 10 days ago, they did not even know how to use a bow. In order to prevent their spouses, children, and parents from being slain once more, they threw themselves into trying, so that they could one day stand with weapons in hand to fight. Is that not worthy of praise? What was truly praiseworthy was the depths of the villagers' hate, which had brought them this far. My deepest apologies. I had not thought that far. It's fine. Don't worry about it so much, Nabe. It's true that their skills aren't really that impressive. Ains watched as more arrows sailed through the air and penetrated the strawmen. An idea suddenly came to mind. How strong could they become? How strong could he become? Ains had attained the maximum level in YGGDRASIL, level 100. When he came to the world, his excess XP bar was around 90% full. It was just a hunch, but since his other abilities were intact, the concept of levels should exist in this world as well. The question now was whether he could obtain that remaining 10% of the experience bar and reach level 101. To some extent, he had an answer to this question. He could not become stronger. This was as powerful as he was going to get. Ains's might was one which could no longer grow, but their weakness could be an unfathomable source of strength. If there were no limits on the inhabitants of this world, if they could surpass the maximum level of 100 in YGGDRASIL, then Ains and the vassals of the Great Tomb of Nazarick would not be able to defeat them. And that would definitely. It's not impossible. Ains felt it was possible that the 6 gods who appeared in the slain theocracy 600 years ago were actually players. Although he did not know why they had appeared so far apart from Ains. If they counted heteromorphic beings which had no maximum lifespan among their number, or if they possessed classes which extended their lifespans, there was a very high chance that they had survived to the present day. If the 6 gods were still hiding in the slain theocracy, and if they had begun power leveling others using the power of the 6 gods, helping them with the abilities of powerful players in order to gain experience faster than normal from 600 years ago. It might well be possible that there were people in excess of level 100. If that were the case, the reason why the theocracy had not yet taken over the world might be because there were other beings of the same caliber lying in wait. It might even be the case that being level 100 meant nothing. As he thought about that, Ains's non-existent gut began cramping up again. If the 6 gods really were players, then he had to try and get on the good side while he lacked information about this world. According to the members of the Sunlight Scripture, the Imperial Knights attacking this village were imposters from the theocracy, which meant that saving this village was making an enemy of them. Was helping him a mistake? As he had surmised, gathering more information was a top priority. Just as Ains was absent-mindedly pondering these matters, he noticed a teenager running over to him. The hair which normally obscured his eyes swayed from side to side, and he could see a pair of eyes fixed intently on himself. Ains immediately had a bad feeling about Nefiria. It looked like the same panic the village chief had from earlier. Why the rush? Did an emergency crop up again? This village is really... Nefiria reached the mumbling Ains. He was panting heavily and his forehead was slick with sweat. His hair, stuck to his skin by his perspiration, revealed a serious expression which was directed at Ains and Nabril. Nefiria seemed a little hesitant and unsure of whether to speak. In the end, he gathered up his determination and asked Ains, "Morn-san, are you Ains Ulgaon-san?" The sudden question left Ains dumbfounded. He should have denied it immediately. But could he do that? It was a name made together with his friends. Now that he had used it as his own, could he deny it so easily? This brief hesitation was an unspoken admission, and Nefiria continued. "So it was you, Gaon-san. Thank you for saving this village, as well as saving Enri." As Ains looked on the bowing Nefiria, he quietly replied, "No." After hearing the word Ains managed to squeeze out, Nefiria nodded in understanding. "Yes, I understand why you might want to go by a different name, but still, I have to thank you for saving this village, for saving Enri, the girl whom I like." Ains did not reply to the deeply bowing Nefiria. While part of him, the middle-aged uncle part, was musing that the words, "the girl whom I like," were really a youthful thing, another part of him was reminiscing nostalgically about things past, and at the same time he thought about other, more important things. "Ah, that's enough. Raise your head." This answer was a tacit admission that he was in fact Ains Ulgaon, but no matter how he tried to get out of this, there was no way he could deny Nefiria's conclusion. This was a complete defeat for Ains. "Yes, Gaon-san. The truth is, I've been hiding something from you. Come with me. Nabe, stay here and wait for instructions." After giving Nabril her orders, Ains brought Nefiria to a place some distance away. This was to keep Nabril from overreacting if she heard something odd. Once they had gone far enough away from Nabril, Ains turned to face Nefiria. Actually, Nefiria swallowed nervously, but the look on his face was full of determination. "Gaon-san, the potion which you gave that lady in the inn cannot be made by normal methods and is extremely rare. I wanted to know what sort of person would have such a potion and what kind of methods would produce such a potion, which was why I requested this job. I am very sorry about that." Ah, so that's what it was. As he thought, it had been a mistake. Ains had given the healing potion to Enri in this village, and to someone else in Erantal. Because of that, his identity had been exposed. In addition, maybe I should have taken back that potion. If I'd gotten that woman adventurer's name as well, it would have been fine. Although, there's no point regretting it now. At the time, Ains felt that giving her that potion was the best course of action. That woman had said, "Well, seeing as you're dressed in such a flashy suit of armor, surely you must have some healing potions, right?" Perhaps she had not thought about those words before speaking them, but the fact was that they greatly limited the ways in which Ains could have responded. For instance, one might see a person getting out of an expensive car. Upon seeing that person's opulent, almost decadent clothing and appearance, they would assume that the car matched their background. But what if that person dressed shabbily? People watching might then think that person had spent all their money on the car. They might even laugh at him. Ains wanted to avoid that sort of situation. If he had refused on the spot, people might have become jealous of his beautiful companion Nabril, as well as his own full plate armor. They might have even begun spreading malicious rumors about him. Such rumors were a thing that followed one for life after they appeared, and people would bring them up constantly. Ains had come to Erantal to build his reputation as an adventurer. As a result, he had to avoid any actions which might damage his public image. He had given her the potion after considering these factors. It was a gamble which he had lost, but he did not lament it. This was not a fatal mistake, and all he needed to do was work hard to compensate for it. After all, Ains was not a perfect being who could do no wrong. Still, he did not know why Neferia was apologizing. Is there anything to be sorry for? Well, I can't say I feel entirely good about someone hiding something from me while smiling and shaking my hand, but then this assignment was designed to build a connection with me, am I correct? What's wrong with that? A deeply puzzled Ains asked this question from the bottom of his heart. Gaon-san, you're really a magnanimous person. Ains had no idea why Neferia was so impressed by him. Building connections was a basic element of living in society, so there was nothing wrong with what Neferia had done. He was somewhat confused about the details, but he vaguely understood. Perhaps Neferia thought that Ains believed that Neferia was drawing close to Ains in order to steal industrial secrets. If I told you how to make the potion, what would you do with that knowledge? Neferia gasped in surprise, and after a brief period of thought he answered. I had not thought that far, Aead. I just wanted to know because I was curious. Granny's probably the same way too. I see. Then, there's no problem. If you were planning to exploit it for criminal gain, it would be a different matter, but if not, then it's fine. You're really amazing. No wonder. Looks at you that way. As Neferia murmured, the wind dried the sweat on his forehead, and his hair fell down to cover his eyes again. Still, Ains could see a look of admiration in his eyes, like a boy meeting with his favorite baseball player. Neferia's expression reminded Ains of the look of surprise and immense gratitude on his own face when his friends had saved him after he had been repeatedly PK'd. For a moment, he felt embarrassed, and then that emotion was damped down. Ains was surprised that Neferia's attitude could affect his heart, but he immediately calmed himself down and moved on. First, he had to be sure of one thing. Speaking of which, are you the only one who knows that I am Ains? Yes, I didn't tell anyone else. Is that so? That's good. Saying that, Ains thought about how to continue speaking with Neferia, but he had no idea where to begin. In the end, he decided to ask him directly. Right now, I am simply Morn the adventurer. I would be glad if you could keep that in mind. Yes, I thought you'd say something like that. I'm sorry for causing you all this trouble, Morn-san, but I need to thank you in person. Thank you very much for saving Henry and this village. Neferia delivered his earnest thanks with a sincere look in his eyes. There's no need to stand on ceremony. I was merely righting a wrong where I saw it. Even so, there shouldn't have been a need to give away those horns. The truth was that there was no particular reason behind giving those horns away. However, if that was how Neferia had interpreted the gift, then he would leave it at that. Ains said nothing but merely nodded in a magnanimous way. In his capacity as an employer, Neferia arranged with Ains to head for the forest in an hour's time. After thanking him again, he turned and left. As he watched Neferia vanish into the distance, Nabril came and bowed before Ains. Ains-sama, my sincerest apologies. People are watching, raise your head. Once she had straightened up, Ains continued in a barbed tone. And you're not wrong to say that. All this was because you mentioned Albedo's name. My exposure here had nothing to do with Albedo's name, but that was still a big mistake. Might as well scold her for it now and make sure she doesn't do it again. First, I should forbid her from calling me Ains. Though I don't think anyone heard. Please allow me to atone with my life. That did not sound like a joke at all. Everyone in the Great Tomb of Nazarick was like this. They considered the members of the guild Ains ul Gharn to be their absolute superiors. They took great pride in their loyalty to the point of death to these supreme beings. Though it felt like a bit of a burden to Ains, having his handcrafted NPCs being loyal to him was not a bad thing. It might well be the fate of any creator. Narbril was an NPC like that. If he jokingly ordered her to kill herself, she would immediately take her own life. The reason why she had asked for permission at all was because of her absolute loyalty to her master, to whom her life belonged. Enough. Anyone can make mistakes. All you need to do is strive not to make the same mistake twice. Work hard, step by step, and do not repeat your past failures. I forgive you, Narbril Gamma. Narbril weighed the desire to pay for her mistakes with death against the loyalty compelling her to obey Ains's command not to die. After a while, the balance of her mental scales seemed to have tipped to one side. Narbril slowly lowered her head. My deepest thanks. I will strive not to make the same mistake again. Well, don't mind it too much. The name of Morn the Adventurer, my undercover identity, was not completely compromised, so you just need to pay more attention in future. However, depending on the circumstances, we may need to eliminate an Etheria. Shall I take care of him now? Don't be foolish. It would be troublesome if we messed up this assignment. Enetheria's grandmother was a famous herbalist in Erantal. Annoying or making an enemy of her would make it more difficult for Ains to reach his aims. In any case, we'll see how it goes. That was all Ains could think of for the moment.